T-minus 60 seconds and counting. We passed T-minus 60. 55 seconds and counting. Neil Armstrong just reported back. It's been a real smooth countdown. We passed the 50-second mark. Power transfer is complete. We're on internal power with the launch vehicle at this time. 40 seconds away from the Apollo 11 liftoff. All the second stage tanks now pressurized. 35 seconds and counting. We are still go with Apollo 11. 30 seconds and counting. Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 25 seconds. 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. We have a liftoff, 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Power clear.
Well, hello and welcome to this edition of the Bullpen. As always, with me is Tom. Tom, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's a Space City Monday. The Stros are wearing the new City Connects, as are we. I don't know what you got going on over there. I got Yainer Diaz. We're repping. Cam Smith was the mission. Houston wouldn't let me have it. I was at the game. I was at opening day, and I was like, "Oh, let me find a way to get Cam Smith's jersey." And they sold out within minutes of his first knock. Couldn't get there fast enough.
That's typical. You could replace that name with Joey Loperfido if he had, if that jersey release had aligned similarly. You probably would have had a lot of fans buy that one out, right? I feel like you would have. Young, exciting talent. Maybe not on the same level, but
nah. We're talking about the first top 100, no doubt. Guy that had so much hype. Joey had a great build-up, and I think Joey's going to be a good player long term. But the way that this guy got hyped up and the way that people were talking about, you got to understand, like Joey Loperfido wasn't the 14th overall pick. Like they're talking about Cam Smith, like he is going to be the next Astro superstar. And so far the makeup looks there. I mean, he's 22. I mean, he's a lot. Yeah.
We've got Rico Suave over here on Instagram asking what's up with the Texans. We're going to break the ice a little bit since it's Space City Monday. So there's a little bit of Astros talk before we go into the Texans. So if you're a Rangers fan, I don't know, go away. Don't go away, but
they need to come here. They're getting beat up right now real bad. I don't know if you know the score. It's like 14-0.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Probably better to be here. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if it'll be a popular decision. This is what I'll say, talking about the Astros briefly, is that my jersey does not have a player. It's just a blank one. And so I got to a point where I looked, I bought mine online, and the only player I was kind of considering was Jeremy Pena. And I was like, man, he's really good, but like I have Jordan's jersey, I have Altuve's jersey. It's just like who else do I grab? Honest, and like Cam Smith wasn't available online. So I mean, I don't know. What's your take on that? Like, how do you feel about blank jerseys?
So I have a closet full of jerseys of guys in all sports that no longer play for my teams. If we're talking Texans, I've got a JJ, I've got a D-Hop. If we're talking Rockets, I've got a Harden. If we're talking Stros, I've got a Springer, Correa, and a Bregman. So I cannot fault anyone for getting a blank. My Space City 1.0 is a blank. This time around, I was like, you know what? Let me get a young guy who I know is going to be under control for a while. He's going to be here for a while. I really like Yainer Diaz a lot. I think he's the future of the Houston Astro catcher position. And then he could transition into first base when Christian Rocker's done. They've got a good young prospect behind Yainer in Walker Janik that went to Sam. So local kid. I think that could work out too. But I can't fault anybody for getting a blank.
Well, the Astros, they're not afraid to play anyone anywhere. Glad to see Altuve out at second base today. feel a little better about that.
He's done well in left
I don't
field.
think he's done bad in left field. I just feel better with him at second base. I don't know what it is.
See,
Maybe
I don't care about where he is positionally. You're not worried about Altuve, the defensive player. You're after Altuve, the offensive player. And for me, his defensive numbers at second base are probably going to be equal to or very, very less than his numbers in left field.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's played out well so far. Like I don't have a problem with it right now, but I can see it being a problem in the future if things go south. I don't know if they will. Like he's done well so far, better than could have been expected. I was surprised to see them stick with that move, given that it felt like it was something that was spawned on by like trying to get Bregman to come back. But oh well. This is a Texans podcast, so let's talk about the Texans for now. You know, if you have any questions, anything you want us to address, this is live. Unless you're listening to it the next day, in which case it's not. But if you're watching us live right now, drop a question in the comments. We'll try and get to all of them if we can. I'll do my best with that. But for now, the big topics that we have this week: the signing of EJ Speed, and then a slight tweak in the NFL's uniform rules, which should affect the Texans since they have some of the best alternate uniforms in the entire NFL. And we'll start with that. That feels like a good starting point. So just today it was announced that they're expanding from 3 times to 4 times. And I believe the helmet rule is changing to where you can now wear your alternate helmets with your primary uniforms. How do you feel about that for the Texans, and how do you think it affects which uniforms they're going to wear moving forward?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's a win-win for the league. It's a win-win for people that want to sell jerseys. It's a win-win for everyone. And I'm not just talking about the Texans. I think there's some other really, really awesome alternate uniforms. The Detroit, that black uniform, they could wear that a ton and no one would complain in Detroit or anywhere else for that, but any Lions fan. So I really feel like it's a smart move to give that freedom to wear whatever, the famous Deion Sanders quote, look good, feel good, play good. I think that totally jives with this here. I think it's something the fans want, and it's smart to do something for the fans or entertain something for the fans. I think last year we wanted to see, the H-Town alternate. We wanted to see the Battle Red. I mean, we always want to see the Battle Red. And, they've always been limited and hamstrung and kind of handcuffed. And this kind of frees that up. And I think that's really smart. And I look forward to seeing how they attack it, where we get these matchups, where we get the uniforms that we want to see in kind of different matchups.
Yeah, I mean, like the example that I go to is last year, the Texans were put in a position where they had worn the H-Town uniforms and they had worn the Battle Red uniforms. And there's like, okay, where are they going to use it the third time? Obviously Christmas. And I don't like talking about that game because of the result, but like realistically, I think the consensus was, oh, you wear the white pants with the red jerseys and you call it a day. Like that is the best combo that you have going into a Christmas game. And then they pulled the H-Town uniforms, and like I love the H-Town uniforms, but if there's one uniform I love more than the H-Town uniforms, it is the red uniform. So I think seeing I said it at the beginning. I mean, the Texans have, I think, the best alternate uniforms in the NFL. They're in contention for top 5, regardless of who you are, in my opinion. But I think that seeing the red uniforms more, especially with the different combos the Texans can do. I don't know if you remember when they wore the blue pants with the red jerseys, with the blue helmets back in at that point. When I looked up the Battle Red uniforms the other day on Google Images, a picture of D-Hop in that popped up. And that's that Tom Savage game. That was I think it's the only time they've ever done it. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd love to see. There's some interesting uniform combos that they teased all off season that I'd be interested to see, and I think that allowing them to do this opens up the door, especially if I didn't see any confirmed reports on the alternate helmets. That was Texans Uniform Tracker that said that on Twitter. But if true, if the Texans can wear like the red helmet with their blue uniforms or with the white red helmet with the white uniforms, I think would be a really nice look. And I'd love to see it. Yeah, were you gonna say something there? Sorry.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think all the different combinations, I don't think there's a wrong way to do any of it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Sorry guys, Tom is watching the Astros game. I'm keeping up with it on Real Sports. And so if we're a little preoccupied or a little distracted, both of us are really kind of wishing that there wasn't, not wishing that there wasn't two Houston sports teams playing back to back. It's nice to have the Astros and Rockets.
I was actually going to look up the Tom Savage thing, and then we kind of got out of it. I was going to look it up, and I was like, you know what? Never mind. We can move on to bigger and better things.
We can move on. I wish I would have gotten the picture saved so I could show everyone, but man, that was a look. And I remember back then being like, man, Tom Savage is going to save the Texans. This is the guy. Some 4th or 5th round pick. I don't even remember when we drafted him. I'm just like, this is what's going to save the Texans. And then obviously Deshaun Watson came in, and as much as it pains me to say, I mean, Deshaun Watson was really good for the team when he got there. So
I know it's a Texan podcast, but did you see what the Browns owner said about Deshaun Watson today? Whoo, my goodness.
We're still recovering from this mistake.
Savage. Brandon's got it. Probably the worst thing you could ever see your owner say about you while you're still a member of the team.
I know, right? It's like, now for the longest I thought, yeah, the Browns are going to push to try and get Deshaun Watson back into the starting role. And now I'm like, I don't know if he'll ever start for that team again. Like, you can't call him a mistake publicly and then give him another chance. So I don't know. But looking ahead to this Texans season, one position that has not been talked about a lot is the linebacker room. Generally speaking, the defense has not been a huge topic of discussion outside of the defense is going to be really good. And so looking at this offseason, there's been a lot of moves to shore up a defense that, I mean, there wasn't 0 holes on the defense, but like they were shored up really quickly, and this defense got, I would say, better this offseason in some way. I don't know if that's a controversial take or not, but EJ Speed is the latest of those signings that everyone's like, okay, what do we make of this? And so without really giving any background, I just want your opinion on the signing of EJ Speed.
I mean, I don't hate it. I really like it from the standpoint that, he's a starter in this league that could be a starter for this team. It could be a great depth piece. I'm never going to be upset with them wanting to bring in good players to try to see if they can fit with this roster, see what they can add. I think D'Amico's a really good communicator. I think he constantly gets the best out of guys when they come in. You look at just the linebacker position in general, and all of these guys that keep rolling in, even if it's on a 1-year deal, you get great play, and then they gush about D'Amico and his ability to get the most out of them. So I can absolutely see a scenario where we get the best version of EJ Speed playing for D'Amico Ryans, because he's a linebacker, and who's going to coach linebackers better than the linebacker coach? I get the fan base, though. You see a lot of things on social media where they're like, why do they keep going out and getting these defensive players? Like, the defense is in a really good spot. Why is there not the same emphasis at wide receiver, or emphasis on the O-line, or, some people want another tight end. And I'm just like, look, good players, get as many of them as you can, wherever you can, and then go draft whatever you lack or whatever you think you need to fill with. And for me, that's just kind of the way I think the Texans are looking at it. They're really just going out and seeing where they can find guys. I think EJ Speed, if I read it correctly, he had other suitors. I think Dallas was in the mix. San Francisco was in the mix. There was other guys that wanted him, and he chose Houston. So you love that. Similar stuff happened with the Astros in the offseason. Brendan Rodgers, he chose Houston. And that, for me, I think that's huge.
Yeah, I agree with you. I noticed when you said some people want a tight end, I think that you could replace some people with me.
Did not. You're not the only one, though. I see all over social media.
But I feel
like,
attacked. No, but I see your point on a lot of it. Really, most of it. The big topic of discussion that's come up around it that I'd like to talk about is they're like, oh, we signed DJ Speed. What's the deal with Christian Harris? And I think that was something it was a subtle topic. I saw a few people talk about it, but it wasn't something that was at the forefront. But the first thing that I thought of because of those conversations that I saw was, man, how do the Texans view Christian Harris? Because you look at Christian Harris, right? A rough first season, injured, didn't really get to show himself. D'Amico comes in and makes Christian Harris, a what everyone I think wanted him to be as a second round pick out of Alabama, a solid linebacker who comes in and plays really exceptionally well, has a really good season, and at the end of it gets injured in the playoffs. For me, just quick sidebar, it would be a shame to see a nickname like Harris County just fall by the wayside. To see a player with such an excellent nickname for the team just not play for the team anymore would hurt. But anyway, getting into that discussion, he comes into this season, everyone's like, oh, he's on IR, he'll be back by week 4. Oh, well, it's week 5, 6. Eventually, Christian Harris becomes this mythical being that rivals, Forrest Whitley in terms of, are we ever going to see him play the sport that he was drafted to play? And then late in the season, we finally get word, okay, he's coming back. And when he comes back, I know, and this is something that I think you would agree with me on, coming back from injury, like, we weren't really given a lot of detail on the injury, but if it took that long, there's some grace to be given. But he didn't exactly play lights out football for the Texans when he came back from injury. This was a team that had found something really good in Henry To'oTo'o in the meantime, and had pretty much relied on Azeez Al-Shaair and Henry To'oTo'o 100%. Like, there was games where those were the only 2 linebackers that played for the team. So depth has been an issue for this team, and Christian Harris's health has been a concern. So with that context, the signing of EJ Speed could be, at worst, in my opinion, depth. At worst, he's a guy you bring on for running downs. From what I've heard from Colts fans, not great in coverage. Not exactly the Blake Cashman or other, like when I think of recently linebackers the Texans have had that are really good, because there was complaints about Henry To'oTo'o in coverage too. But when I think of recent linebackers the Texans have had, Blake Cashman comes to mind as a guy who's like a coverage linebacker. This isn't that. This is just a really good run stopper, really high energy guy that but D'Amico believes in. D'Amico saw him twice a year for 2 years, and obviously has reason to believe that he'd be a good fit for this defense. But I could see him getting spot play situationally. I think one of the big things that wore out, there was injury problems even on top of Christian Harris being injured, because To'oTo'o and Azeez Al-Shaair were asked to play every down, and then there's also the fact that Shaair got suspended. So he plays. He's the enforcer. He's the guy on that defense who brings the attitude. He's one of those guys. So when you have that risk, you do have to have depth. With Neville Hewitt departing, I could easily see EJ Speed slotting in as a depth guy at worst. And if it comes down to it, and we see the rotation of Al-Shaair, To'oTo'o, and Christian Harris is not getting the job done, or maybe throughout camp we see enough from EJ Speed that D'Amico goes, this is my guy. That could be a possibility, but I'm not writing off Christian Harris. I'm not going to say, oh, well, the signing of EJ Speed for 1 year and $5 million is very obviously the end of Christian Harris in Houston. Christian Harris is a rookie contract. He has shown really well. I think that it's within, as much as the Texans have kind of gotten away from it, like historically, and I'm not talking recently, I'm talking historically, the Texans have been known to give every level of the organization a lot more time than they probably should. I look at Gary Kubiak as the primary example, to get right. And obviously that led to the Texans' first playoff, win. So I don't hate that move, but like the Texans will give a guy. And so even in recent history, Caserio and D'Amico have shown like, oh, you got injured. Okay, cool. Take your time, come back, and we're going to give you a chance, and put you out there and see what you got. So it's with, Derek Stingley. Derek Stingley came back and was a superstar. With Kenyon Green, didn't quite work out, ended up getting traded away. We have examples of it. And so I would suspect that Christian Harris is going to come in. I don't know if about incumbent starter, with what happened last season, but I think he'll have a leg up in that competition. I think he's the guy that's going to be favored to win it. People will talk about like cap savings. If you think that $3 million in cap savings is keeping is going to make the Texans move on from Christian Harris, then I think what it would take is a team coming in and being like, hey, we noticed you got a lot of linebackers. Would you like to give us Christian Harris for insert acceptably high amount of draft capital that we have that we would like to give you. And if the Texans wanted to sell high, sure, but I wouldn't even say that that's what this is right now. I mean, he's kind of in a state of like, get back out there and show us that you are what we know you are. So I don't know. What do you have to say to it, Tom?
I couldn't disagree with you more.
I saw the look on your face. I said, I need to give Tom a chance to talk. I've been talking too long.
No, not at all. But I don't know if you know what the depth chart looks like right now. Anybody that understands what the depth chart looks like right now would realize that Christian Harris is going to be a huge part of this team. There's no scenario where they're sending him away. Last year, you spoke to it. You spoke to all the injuries. You spoke to Christian Harris's injury. You spoke to the suspension. You know who played a ton of that while all of that was happening? Neville Hewitt. Neville Hewitt's gone. You spoke to that. You know who else played meaningful minutes? A lot of meaningful minutes? Devin White. Devin White's gone. So like you look at the linebacker room right now, it's Toa, Harris, Al-Shaair, EJ Speed now, Jake Hansen, and Jamal Hill. So it drops off of a cliff after EJ Speed. So those four guys are going to be counted on to really shoulder a lot. I think that this is going to keep everybody fresh. Obviously, we talked about injuries. Injuries are a part of the game anyway. You really need to have good quality depth all the way around. We saw it when the star position got dinged up. Then you start putting in guys in there you didn't want to see. I would love to know that, okay, if I only need 2 linebackers, I have these 4, and I can get 2 of them pretty much all season long in some variation, some form or fashion. You know what I mean? I think it's a great depth piece. If for some reason EJ comes in and blows the doors off of spring training and all spring training, yeah, I'm baseball, right? If he does all those things, then sure. I don't think Christian Harris is gonna be like this guy that won't play for the Texans because EJ Speed replaced him. I really think yes, and Neiman. But again, I'd rather see any one of the 4 I named before Neiman. And it's not a knock on him. He could be the guy. It's just like right now, this team is built really, I think, to win. You want good veteran players all the way around. Any kind of project stuff, it better be a high-end first-round draft pick type guy that you want to work with. You want somebody with all the measurables, this, that. I'm not knocking Neiman at all. I actually have to go look up what he is or anything like that. What round draft pick, how young, that sort of thing. I just would like the veteran presence, hey, these guys are going to go in and do their job. And I think with adding EJ Speed, you've really solidified a position where if one of those 3 guys gets nicked up, then you're putting a lot of trust in somebody that hasn't played a lot of meaningful minutes anywhere.
I agree with you. So I looked it up. I need to get this out here, just to give an understanding for why. Like I agree that 4 linebackers at around about 4 or 5 linebackers is about where it's at. And I think EJ Speed. I'm not trying to say EJ Speed's a signing that could end up off the route. I think like at worst he is a depth piece, and it's been spoken to his abilities on special teams. So it's very clearly a Neville Hewitt replacement signing at face value. But he has also played significant time in Indianapolis and shows to be a guy who could challenge for the starting job, and present realistic competition to. When you look at it, who does he present real competition to? Christian Harris, because that Toa has shown it would take Toa having a similar like an injury or something that took him off the field for a really long time and not coming back strong. But Azeez Al-Shaair and Toa, in my eyes, based off of last year, have cemented themselves as high on the roster. So then who is fighting for that 3rd spot? And there's also the fact that with the way the NFL has changed up with the 4-2-5 defense, the need for like the 3rd linebacker is depth. And so the 4th can also be there, but they based on specific roles, right? So like EJ Speed would back up one and then, Christian Harris the other, or however you want to do it. The Texans obviously didn't run a rotation. So this was the Texans snap counts. I'm not going to read percentages. I'm just going to tell you which linebackers took snaps, because there are packages where there's not 2 linebackers on the field. But through the first 3 weeks, Azeez Al-Shaair and Henry Toa are the only linebackers that took any snaps for the team. Neville Hewitt took 1 snap in week 4. And then we go to week 5. literally no other linebackers. No, and then week 6, I believe, is when either Toa or Hewitt went, or not Hewitt, where Al-Shaair went down. I believe it was Al-Shaair. So then Neville Hewitt and Jake Hansen had to step up, and then Jake Hansen and Neville Hewitt actually both started week 7 and 8. But Devin White was signed in week 8, so he took half of Jake Hansen's snap share. All that to say, if you look throughout the season, right up until the star safety went down, you can see that they were running 2 linebackers. So do I think we're going to see that this season? No, because I think that Christian Harris and EJ Speed will both command some amount of snap share. But who commands more of it, I guess, is really the question. Because it could change throughout training camp, but in my mind, Toa and Al-Shaair, when healthy, were the guys going into last season, and I can't see a world, unless Christian Harris just absolutely tears up training camp and they're like, this is our guy again. I think Christian Harris bats relief, which is, to go with keep with the baseball references. He'll be or pitching relief, I guess. I don't know. I felt like I picked a really bad time to try and make a baseball reference. It makes it look like I don't know baseball. Like, guys, I know baseball, just not as well as Tom does. I promise I know baseball. We had I'm gonna catch up on the comments on Instagram. We said, let's go Texans AFC champions 2025. Tell me what you think. It's on the table. That is always been on the table because defense wins championships. The Texans have one of the best defenses in the NFL, and that is, to circle back to earlier, that is why the Texans have spent so many assets, even though people think they shouldn't, on addressing defense, is that they need to maintain a top 5 defense and then get the offense to a level where it is serviceable. I don't think they're ever, under D'Amico Ryan's, going to rely on the offense to be the end all be all juggernaut, world destroyer. I think they would love for it to be that, but at this point, to continue contending, all they really needed to, and we could see them gear up for life with CJ Stroud's extension as early as now. They're setting up this offense to be cheap pieces around CJ, and CJ, I think, is good enough to propel an offense when adequately protected. So CJ and the offensive line, I think, will be the primary investment, and then CJ is good enough that he can probably make that offense work. But how do you feel about the Texans in the AFC going into this season with what we know so far?
I feel like they're the clear favorite. I don't see any scenario where you look at Jacksonville or Tennessee or Indy and there's anything that they can do between now and training camp to go, oh, well, they're clearly the better team than the Texans. You look at what Houston's been able to do. I think you look at the stuff they did with the offensive line, the stuff that we've talked about on defense, and you really just feel good. I think Christian Kirk, a lot of people really like that signing, as another wide receiver. So it's really hard for me to do anything or try to sell you another team. I mean, I want to be fair. I want to be biased, even though I feel like we are. It's really hard to say any of those guys can turn around in a season. Indy's got Richardson. Maybe they could do something. Obviously, they've got some pieces. Jacksonville's finally trying to do something, I think, and just like reset that whole system, which could be good. But that takes years. I would think that would take Jacksonville 2 or 3 years to try to get to where they need to go. Same thing kind of with Tennessee. So I really feel like it's pretty clear cut. It's the Texans and then everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Texans, and I don't want to harp on it too much. I don't want it to sound the wrong way. I don't want to change the tide of things, but last offseason, it felt like, oh, we're in an arms race with, Indianapolis. That will be the team the Texans will contend with for the rest of the, season. And then Indianapolis just like, Shane Steichen, I will stand by it to this day, is a great offensive mind, but the gamble that they took on Anthony Richardson, I don't think has paid off so far. And I don't have any reason to believe it will ever, based off how they're treating that situation. Once you start getting into it's been 2 years since we drafted you and you are now in an open competition for the starting job. When you were drafted in the top 5, like that's early signs that it's not working and that you will probably not win that job. And if you do, you'll be injured by the second quarter of the first game, which is what has pretty much happened with Anthony Richardson every time he's touched the field. And it's a shame because I hate that trope. I hate that like character arc for quarterbacks in college where it's like this guy can only run and he's just gonna get injured when he runs, and it's like no, guys can run, right? And then the second he touches the field, he takes off running, scores 2 touchdowns on the Texans. The reason I know it so well is they played the Texans that first game, put up 2 touchdowns and 80 something yards in the first 2 quarters just to go down injured for basically the rest of the season, like in on and off. So I think that the Jaguars, like you said, the Jaguars are making a push with Chat GMPT, their new GM, as Houston Stresson so affectionately calls him, who is like literally tipping their moves to the media very overtly. It's like an interesting approach. Very bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off. But I just don't see a team, and then it's always hilarious every offseason, Titans fans trying to act like their team is not the worst team in the division by a large margin. But the AFC South, it's a shame. It feels like being a part of like it's been the case for most of the Texans' existence, but being a part of a lesser division and being like, look, we're the king of the worst. And people, it in a way, in a lot of people's eyes, I feel like that's a lot of what, and that's a lot of what we dealt with going into the Chiefs game, where the Texans played the Chiefs really close right before they went off and went to the Super Bowl. The whole narrative was like, and even against the Chargers in the playoffs, every comment section was just like, the Texans play the AFC South. They don't even deserve home field advantage. That's like a free ride to the playoffs with the team the Texans have. Like, put them in the AFC West, they wouldn't even make that. Of course, they wouldn't make the. I wouldn't say, of course, they would make the playoffs in the AFC West, but like, put them in a division with 4 other teams that actually have a legitimate playoff hopes. Yeah, sure, it'd be a little tougher road, but like, I don't know. Like, I love the rivalries. I think that being in the AFC, and here's a fun topic. We'll give it a shot. How do you feel about Texas being in the AFC South? Like, now that I've talked all that about it.
I mean, I don't mind it. I think you kind of spoke to the whole the best of the worst thing, and I look at it the other way around. That's on the other teams. That's not on you. That's not on the Texans. As a fan, I'm not gonna sit here and be upset because they don't want to get better. The Patriots won how many rings because they were the only team in the AFC East for like a decade. So like, how am I supposed to sit here and go, well, I don't want that. I don't want a free ride to the playoffs and then just figure it out. So early on, the Bills were really bad. The Dolphins were really bad. I mean, the Jets were really bad. There were one year here or there, one of those teams would like rise up to try to challenge the Patriots, and then they just squash that out and win their division, and then go into the playoffs, and you win 2 games, you're in that AFC Championship game, or if 2 games you're in the Super Bowl, whatever.
I like the comparison you made there, and the thing is that I feel like the problem with it is that the AFC South team has always made the playoffs and like lost in the divisional round if it was the Texans. But like the Titans and the Jaguars and the Colts have all kind of made that push past it. I'll remove all my grievances with being in the AFC South if it becomes Patriot like, where it's like, oh, it's just an automatic ticket to the playoffs where we can now just win a couple games and then be world champions. Like, yeah, that's great. But right now, it just feels like it puts this reputation on the team, and it puts these expectations. And then what I hate about it is that when and if the Texans fall short, the first thing, well, the Texans were the AFC South, so like they didn't even deserve to be there. And I don't like that being the case, because I think the Texans have a really good team. I may be a little biased there, but I think that they deserved their spot. Even with as bad as the offensive line was this past year, I felt like they played the Chiefs really well. And, I mean, they stood squarely in their own way of making it deep in the playoffs. So I'm excited. I like the Patriot comparison. I'll be the first one to tell you that I don't mind people comparing the Texans to the Patriots that were a great dynasty, because there are a lot of people that take issue with that, calling the Texans Patriots South. As long as you're talking about the Patriots Bill Belichick coached, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
let's see. Could the Texans try and run the Texans tush push? That's fun. This is general NFL, but I do want your opinion on this because that's all my notifications today from Twitter have been this GM said this about the tush push, and this GM said this. And you know what I got out of all those notifications? There would be one GM that would be like, "Oh, the tush push needs to be banned because it's just not safe or not healthy, like the Packers." And I'm like, "Okay, you're." I don't know. I have a better way to describe it. That's just kind of a loser mentality. It's like not an unfair advantage. They've just crafted. It's not like torpedo bats like the Yankees. It's like it's just you guys need to be better and stop them. So so I think D'Amico said it, and a lot of other coaches and GMs were like, it's your job to come up with a game plan to stop it. It's a really good play. How do you feel about the tush push?
I totally agree with them. It's not illegal. Any team can run it. It's funny you brought up the torpedo bats because that's been a hot topic. And literally half of MLB is trying to get their hands on torpedo bats, and they're trying to, try this thing that, apparently the Yankees were just ahead of the game on.
I need a torpedo bat in Jose Altuve's hands tomorrow.
I don't need you to change his bat because he's got all these hits with a normal bat. Like
Imagine how those hits go if he has a torpedo bat.
Well, the difference is where the ball hits the bat. This is not a baseball podcast. We will do this on another podcast.
Okay, we'll do it.
Let me get back to it. But the tush push it's the reason it's become such a topic is it was on the table to be banned. And there's feelings both ways. Some GMs don't like it because it's really like it's not football, so to speak, and then some GMs are kind of like, and coaches are kind of like, look, it's a play. I've got to be able to stop it. It's not illegal. There's nothing saying that you can't do it. And I'm with that. I'm of that mind of thinking. If you can create a play or you can use a play to your benefit that no one can stop, then you do it. I think about the Steelers, back in that Ben Roethlisberger, Jerome Bettis, he basically was the same thing. They get to the one and you hand it to Bettis and he was gonna walk in the end zone. It didn't matter. The whole building knew the bus was getting the ball. And there was like one game where he had like 4 carries for 5 yards and 3 touchdowns. And it's like, that was his stat line. And it's like, well, what are we going to do? We're going to ban Jerome Bettis because that's what they use him for? No. So I think the tush push is fine. And I think, teams just have to do a better job of defending it.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, here, Brandon just brought up a really good point. The Lions seem to use a lot of plays that no one else can run. I mean, ban any play you don't
James
like that other
loves
teams can do well.
James wants all of those plays in the playbook.
All those plays, do it. Line a CJ Stroud up in the slot. Just don't shift him into the scrum in the trenches because I don't need him to get injured because he was blocking. But like shift guys around, do that kind of stuff. I think that's one of the fun parts of football. I've spoken to it a few times. I mean, I coached junior Pee Wee football for 2 years, and the creativity aspect of things, like I made sure when I was coaching, I was like, hey guys, like we're in formation, like what do you think of this? Like, and I just throw out the most ridiculous thing. I literally saved a timeout like going into the half. We scored like 14 points in 30 seconds because I had taught the kids in practice. I said, hey guys, when I'm on the sideline, if I throw my hands like this and shout NASCAR, just run up to the line and run the same play again. And they were like, that's like the coolest thing ever. So like it's simple stuff at that level, but like running out there. One of my favorite trick plays that comes to mind is when they because it had Kyle Shanahan in it when he was coordinating out in Cleveland, and him and Mike McDaniel and Johnny Manziel acted like they were having an argument on the sideline. Or no, it was Baker Mayfield. Was it Baker Mayfield or Johnny Manziel? It was one of the two. The same. No, I'm just
I was about to say they really are like the same dude.
They're like the same. But and then he just breaks as a wide receiver and catches the ball and gets the first down. I'm pretty sure it's Johnny Manziel. I'm pretty sure. But man, I just can't, because I'd be believable. That's the thing, is either one of those would be believable if either one of those quarterbacks was arguing with the coordinator on the sideline at that stage in their career. But I like it because it's fun. I like a nice trick play. I know that if it doesn't work, then the coach, it's just like a fourth down. You make the decision to go for it on fourth down. make the decision to forego a field goal in field goal range and go for it, and you miss it. The coach is an idiot, but if he gets it, he's this genius who decided to make a genius, bold call. But yeah, Tom, I like trick plays, so sue me. Don't actually sue me. I would not. I don't want that to happen. But yeah, let's see. Titus Howard can't catch a pass. I'd love to test that theory. I'd love to line Titus Howard up as an eligible receiver and throw him the football, just for the fun of it. That's the kind of stuff the Lions are doing. What was it? You know what made Texans football bearable for a stretch when it was really bad? It was back when J.J. Watt was lining up at tight end and had more offensive touchdowns than half the receivers in the NFL, just playing tight end for like a couple games at the beginning of the season. And that was the same year that J.J. Watt should have won, MVP. And I thought that that creativity, maybe it's a thing that bad teams do, but recently the Lions have done it and it worked. You got the Philly special. I could go on and on about all these trick plays that have worked. At the college level, I really like the Statue of Liberty, Boise State versus Oklahoma. It's 8:44 in Houston, and OU still sucks. So anyway, I had to squeeze that one in there.
Thank you,
Danielle
Brandon.
Hunter run play.
Give me Will Anderson Jr. Give me Danielle Hunter. If you're trying to get cute, don't do it with Titus Howard. You know what I mean? Give me one of those guys. Those guys are athletes.
Line up Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. at tight end. Do it. Okay. Weird with it.
Somebody is gonna absolutely burn the Texans' house down. This is the worst play in the history. Fire everyone. Casario out. D'Amico out.
Test it out when you're up by 30, and then in the Super Bowl when you need a miracle, they'll be like, "What is it? Danielle Hunter." Just line up Danielle Hunter in the backfield occasionally, just for no reason. And then in the Super Bowl, just oh, it's Danielle Hunter for the win. I'd love to see it.
Be wild.
Let's see. I think that's pretty much what we wanted to talk about today. Someone dropped Kelvin Banks Jr. ? With the prayer hands. We've had out that discussion. I don't know. I would love it if he falls that far. Kelvin Banks at 25 is a good pick, but I don't know if I'd like that pick much higher. But we've talked about that. So we'll bring this thing to a close so we can put our full attention on the Astros game and the Rockets, who are playing on TNT tonight, and no one is more excited about that than me. And any Houstonian who can't pay just $15 a month for Space City Home Network. But anyway, let's bring this thing to a close. This has been the Bullpen. We've been live here taking questions. If you're listening the next day, which is when this will be available for audio, wherever you get your podcasts, you can see us live and you can be in the comment section like Brandon, Forever Royal, Waldron Byers. I'm just reading people who have left comments. But yeah, if you want to be interactive, it's every Monday night. Just hop in and join in on the fun. I am at James Roy NFL, wherever you get your social media, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, the whole 9 yards. Tom is TC Tom1 on Instagram and Third Coast Tom on Twitter. And I've yet to start the campaign to cyberbully Tom into starting a TikTok, but maybe one of these days we'll do it. I think he has one. He's probably one of those people that has a TikTok and just scrolls without posting anything.
That is 100% who I am. That is 100% what it is. And that is 100% where I think it'll stay. Yeah, I can't see myself creating reels.
He's user 12697835461.
Come on now. Hold on. Wait one. I will give you the name.
Is it user or something or another? Did you actually make a name?
No. It is at Chavi, CHAVI 3413 for the two greatest Rockets to date, Hakeem Olajuwon, James Harden.
Okay. Shout out to University of Houston making it to the Final Four. We're hoping to be able to talk next Monday about them being in the championship. Although it plays out on Saturday, is the championship on Monday night?
Yes.
I don't think anyone is going to tune in next Monday night to us because they're going to be watching the University of Houston.
That's a good point.
Take the title, but we'll take your viewership if you'll give it to us next Monday. Just to get two screens, okay? It's 2025. Come on. But yeah, so you got Tom's TikTok. That didn't take a lot of effort. I'm gonna have to find some new information to get.
I'm
out
an
of
open
Tom.
book, man. I'm whatever y'all want. I got it.
Whatever you want to know about Tom, just ask him in the comments.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for tuning in. As always, this month or April, I guess. Next month I'll be doing my Texans gear giveaway on Twitter. So make sure you follow me on there so you can get some sweet Texans gear. I think it's just gonna be a Texans jersey. That seems like the sensible thing to do. So make sure you get in on that. And yeah, as always, thanks for joining us, and stay classy, Houston, and vamos Texans.